MRD Chatroom. I am your host today, Shernell Marshall, and we wrap up our series with Arnell Goslin of Echo Nation, looking at the topic social media, toxic or transformational. Welcome again, Arnell.
It's a pleasure always.
Today I want to start where we ended last time because it left me with lots of thoughts on our young people, on our children, and how social media is impacting their mental health in terms of what it's requiring of them, what the culture of social media. And we'd have said that the culture of social media being showing my best self, best inverted commas, of course, because it's not your real self, or as the word that we would have used from last time, or authentic self, but what people perceive to be something that's good. So you must only show you happy or on top, or show something that everybody wants to see, where you get the likes for it. So if I show my authentic self, sitting at home reading a book, I might get blah or no likes. But I have to be dressed a certain way, or have a certain pose, or have a certain smile on my face or something, or be doing something supposedly really interesting or exciting. And for me as a young person, as I said, that's not me being authentic, and who I really am is a lonely person and unhappy and really having no one to talk to, because we would have talked about communication again and social skills, and nobody, I'm an only child in the home, all the adults are busy, so it's just me, and social media is my only outlet. But people only want to hear me if I am doing what they like or what they want, and that can't be healthy if I can't be myself. I don't get to be myself at home, and I don't get to be myself on social media. So let's begin there today, and can I hear your thoughts? Have you investigated this? Have you seen this happening? Is this actually a reality? Is this all in my mind? I know you say you do studies in school. Is this one of the studies that you have done? Tell us about this.
Yes, when we go into school, we look at the whole idea of social media and me. How is social media shaping the perception of beauty, how I look at myself, and my physical appearance and so on, and what I present? What does it say about me? If you go on social media, you're bombarded with selfies and posees, and basically a selfie obviously is a self-taken photo, and a posee is usually one where someone takes a photo of you, and we are bombarded with all this imagery, and a lot of the times we have a standard or standard of beauty, or standard of what is perceived as likable, is based on what we see and what gets the more likes. So, for instance, a young girl standing up, smiling. She may be smiling, may be beautiful, and she's just with a normal posture, normal straight thing, have on a normal dress and whatever. She may get 20 likes. But when I accentuate certain body parts, so when I put it in a particular way, so I accentuate my behind, or she accentuates her breast, and she puts on like a kissy face or something like that, that gives the idea of sexual readiness. All of a sudden, those 20 likes go up to 200 likes and to more followers and all these things. So what scientists are actually saying is that some young people are learning from the whole culture of social media that to be accepted, to get the attention that I want, to be liked by everyone, I must put on, I must fit the model of beauty or sexuality, and therefore you're pressured into being more sexualized in order to get the attention or the confirmation that you're looking for. And a lot of young people have said that, yes, they feel this pressure. They see it, one, that there's this whole sexualization of people, and then there's this pressure to look that way or to take pictures in that way. And it's really impacting their self-esteem. So we have a video that we want to show you guys, and is a video with a psychologist, and she's discussing this. How is social media impacting or women especially, in terms of their perception of beauty, the whole idea of sexualization. We know that sexualization is nothing new, but with social media, the pressure, and because our young people spend so many hours there, how that is impacting them and what they're learning from this, and how is it impacting their concept of beauty, how they value themselves, how they look at themselves, and how they look at other people. So take a look at this video, and then afterwards we'll continue our discussion.
So how do these questionable social media trends impact our young women? Psychologist Dr. Lauren Hizouri joins me with more insight. You know, a lot of 15-year-olds are looking a lot older these days. What's driving this over-sexualization of young women on social media?
Well, you know, Dr. Ian, I think that, well, I'm grateful 40 is the new 30. It's quite disturbing that 12 is the new 20,
Yeah.
you know, and I think it comes down to not only the way that girls dress today, but with the different filters that they have on social media. And we all know how celebrities pose and they make that famous. So the girls want to be like the celebrities and influencers. And so instead of standing with their arms at their sides and smiling, they learn to spread their legs, toss their shoulder forward, put on a pouty face, and that certainly sexualizes them in a way that oftentimes they don't even really understand.
Yeah, but Dr. Lauren, there's some real impact when you look at the over-sexualization and the self-sexualization that these young women are going through.
Yeah, and you know, it's a growing concern and growing problem. The American Psychological Association actually formed a task force to see what psychological impact this is having, the sexualization of girls is having on their long-term emotional health. You know, we've found that the sexualization of girls in society overall and on social media really has an impact on their mood, on their school performance, on the relationship with themselves, their self-esteem, and it could possibly lead to, you know, depression, anxiety, suicide.
And there's got to be like this really strong appeal to these young women to sell nudes on sites like OnlyFans. Why is it so strong? What is the huge attraction?
You know, honestly, I had never heard of OnlyFans until I was asked to do this show. So when I received the request, I did some research myself to find out what OnlyFans is. And so the first person I went to was my 17-year-old daughter. And I said, hey, what's OnlyFans? And she said, why are you asking me about that? You know, so she, of course, knew. And then I started to ask a lot of the girls that come into my office, hey, have you heard of OnlyFans? And you know, so I'm not talking necessarily just about, you know, OnlyFans, but the reason that nudes are so common and sexting is so common and anything like this is because, you know, number one, it really does tie into how society in general has sexualized teen girls and young women for decades. This isn't a new thing.
Sure.
It's just that social media and these apps make it so accessible that it's hard for them to say no. Let's think about it this way. We live in a society that really values money, right? And in the pandemic, you know, there's been an increase in use of these things during the pandemic because a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are struggling financially. So of course that makes it more interesting for them right now. Number two, sex sells. We all know that people who are sexually attractive get more likes and follows. So a girl who stands with her arms at her sides, giving the big old smile with all the teeth, she learns quickly that when she does the sexier pose with the pouty face, that she gets a lot more likes and follows than somebody who does the former pose. So, you know, girls learn pretty quickly what gets them to fit in and what gets them, you know, kind of, you know, feeling good about themselves. And in the short term, it feels good to get all those likes, but in the long term, it ends up affecting their self-esteem. So the attraction is making money, feeling like they're fitting in, they're doing what the celebrities that they so look up to are doing. And I'm not really quite sure that celebrities and influencers recognize that they have a significant responsibility to these Gen Z kids. You know, they're home. A lot of them haven't been going to school or socializing to stay safe. And so they're home and they're getting all of their human connection on this device that's in the palm of their hands. And a lot of times they're doing things that they don't recognize what those long-term consequences are going to look like. And what I mean by that is, the frontal lobe of our brain, the part of our brain that makes rational decisions, that helps us to see consequences for our actions and for our behaviors, that frontal lobe isn't fully formed until about 25 years old. But the part of our brain that thinks very emotionally, that part is cruising in our teen years. And so they don't recognize what impact this is going to have on them. So I think what's so attractive about it is money, the sexualization. They have learned that their value comes from their sex appeal. And lastly, they're not really thinking the same way that we would with an adult brain.
So we're back. What do you thought of that video?
Wow, 12 the new 20. Yeah, that has a lot of information there for us as adults to really take in and to help us to understand a little bit of where our young people are at and what they're dealing with. And for sometimes in the classroom, why they might be distracted. I know that as a teenager, as a female, and then recalling my teenage days, it's so hard on females. It always is. There's so much social pressure though in being a certain way. And you talk about the hypersexualization of females. It's not only about social media, but it's more so in your face today constantly. And that is what our young people have to deal with. And I think about that and turn on your cameras. I know that students might not have their cameras on because you're not the only person at home. We know that there have been several embarrassing things that have happened in the background with cameras on. But say your camera is not on, but you have a picture of yourself. I have seen some kids wearing their school uniform, but then you have others with some pictures that, are filtered out, filtered to the T, as you would say, or having particular poses. So I can definitely see the video and how that is impacting what our children, our students are doing today.
Yes. What we saw in the video in terms of what children are learning from social media, as you said, is how can I fit the standard? How can I be the one that attracts the attention or attracts the likes? And what does that mean? And so sometimes, as teachers especially, when we have these classes, we may need to pay attention to some of the profile pics that these students have up, because sometimes in the same culture of these sexualized, you may see students that may be wearing certain things, or because of the facial expressions or the actual pose, if it's a fuller body photo, it per se gives the indication of sexual readiness. And that's basically what, when we talk about the hypersexualization of girls on social media, that whole idea of sexual readiness is what we're talking about. The way how they form their faces, the way how they do their poses and so on. And we also see not only in terms of the sexualization, but when we look at things like the selfie filters, when we talk about what is deemed as beautiful, in some cultures, especially in Asian cultures, the whole concept of beauty is a standard where you may have to have a pale face, a pointed face, a pointed nose, eyes must be full, the eyelashes, all these things. And these filters that the children use also give or shape their perception of beauty. Yes, the filters can be fun. There are some fun filters like the bunny ears and the cat whiskers and all these things. But then there are filters that actually give that altered appearance. And sometimes what we are seeing now is that a lot of our children, they don't want to take a picture without these filters because they don't feel comfortable with who they naturally are. So they need this filter to be like to get that, to reach that beauty standard, to look beautiful or to look pretty or to look perfect. They need these filters in order to feel that way. And what we're seeing now is an interesting phenomenon, something called selfie dysmorphia. And what selfie is not a medical phrase as yet, but basically it is a practice that we're seeing where a lot of the plastic surgeons and these beauty experts are seeing that teenagers, one time they would come saying, I want to look like Kylie Jenner, or I want to look like this person, I want lips like this person, which is still part of the whole social media culture. But now they're saying, I want to look more like my selfie filter. So some of these filters give you fuller lips, some of these filters give you eyelashes, some of these filters give you fuller eyes. So you get the children saying, like, I want to look like my selfie filter, I want to have paler skin. So they're doing the treatment to get the paler skin. There are some children that will ask for fuller eyes. And that is nothing that a surgeon can do, but that just goes to show you the impact that and the influence that it's having when they look at themselves and how they perceive themselves, and the whole idea in social media of having to be beautiful to fit a particular, having to look a particular way to fit a certain standard, or being sexualized in order to get the attention.
Okay, my mind is wandering, as it often does, and I'm seeing our children with all these filtered pics on whether their social media pages, on their profile pics for school, and a lot of them have been away from the classroom for a while. A lot of them have gone into school for the first time, never meeting their fellow classmates.
Face to
But
face.
there is this facade of who I am, or many of them maybe, to use a term from our last episode, Catfishers, because they might be this person online. They online persona is totally different from who they are. And now school reopens, say, in the next school term, and they are afraid to go to school because that's not me, that's not the person I've been presenting to the classroom. So they may have been, all popular because of their selfie filter. We talked about in the last session how we hide behind our online personality, so we can be seeing one thing and doing one thing and all these. But then when we go to school now, we're a totally different person. And I'm thinking that our kids have to deal with that, because this era, this time has presented lots of challenges. Yeah, for teachers, yeah, for educators, but so many more for our young teens who are going through menopause. Did say menopause? Going through puberty. Sorry, they're going through puberty, and it is all kinds of hormones all over the place, and they're erratic and the emotions. So having to deal with that, and now having to go to school as the real me. The real me might not be accepted. I was accepted as my my profile pic. As you're saying, I might have selfie dysmorphia, you called it.
Selfie dysmorphia.
So I definitely think I'm going to go get, some sort of whatever I can get to pressure my parents to do this, so I can look like that for when I'm ready to go into face-to-face class. So I'm acceptable with my peers.
Even simple things like, for instance, we mentioned the whole aspect of some children not wanting to take selfies or take photos without the filters on. And then they're also learning that if I need to present my best self, I'm not going to take a photo without my makeup on. And in some cases, the makeup is not necessarily there to enhance the beauty, but the makeup is more so to change your features, or to change how you really look. So then, therefore, when we have all of these pictures of our filtered selves or our altered selves, when we come to face, people are like, who's this? And that brings out a lot of identity issues. And are we really being satisfied? Are we really satisfied with who we are and how we look? Or is there the pressure to always look a particular way, always to put on the face, put on the concept that everything is fine, and then, as you mentioned, not being true to who I am?
I can see it being more challenging when our children return to the classroom, because school, as we adults like to think, is not simply about teaching or learning. There are the other things that go on, as we talked about earlier.
Social.
The social interaction, the social skills development. All these things are part of what you get from the classroom face-to-face school day.
Mm-hmm.
And as I would have said, our young people going through puberty is not easy. Your emotions are erratic. You're all over the place. You're already dealing with that. Hormones that throw you in flux. and my feelings are up, down, left, right, and center. And then the pressure then of fitting in physically to this, as I said, this persona that I created for myself online. And then teachers being understanding around that too, because I think as adults we need to be a lot more understanding of where our kids are at emotionally at this stage of their lives, at this stage of development, and recognizing that they would have come, a lot of them came from even being closed off at home. Because in the last episode we've talked about a lot of our children are lonely at home. You've said that, you know, they're the only child maybe at home amongst adults who are busy, and then the only outlet may be social media. So and follow this, because in this social media world they've created this person, and then to go back to school they need to be accepted because they want to be physically accepted. Everybody wants to be accepted to fit in. So if at home is too busy, online I fit it in, but now at school I'm not fitted in.
I think what you want to show children is that you give them a space where they can be authentic. Because if it is a case where I am presenting a persona on social media that I have to put on and take off, and I'm only presenting one angle of myself, we're not really getting to see the real you. And I think what helps us is to understand for children, communicate with children that, hey, in our environment, we don't need to see this persona. We want to just see you. We want to meet you, who you are, what are the things that you like, and a lot of the things that may not be presentable on social media. And I think one of the ways that we could help teachers recognize this is if we understand what are the signs, some of the signs or some of the symptoms of social media addiction and how it can impact them. So if we had to start there, what are some of the signals? There are some signals that you wouldn't really see unless you really do some investigation. Like if you start looking at their social media profiles, if you start looking at what are the things that they're doing, or if when they come into a school environment, you will see certain signs, or in their home environment, there are certain signs. So if we look at the idea of with the selfie filters, let's start there. When we talk about selfie filters, and there are some children that would be like, they're so caught up in the whole filters thing, they don't take pictures without filters. Or all the pictures that they take may have a sexual lean to them. All right, that is usually an indicator of that. So if you look at their profiles and that's what you see that. Or if you look at their WhatsApp statuses or their WhatsApp whatever, you realize that they announce everything online. I got up this morning, what I have for breakfast, and all these things. All through the day, they're constantly posting what's happening. That is usually an indicator that they may have a digital addiction or social media addiction.
I am in class, I am so bored. Oh, this teacher is I have seen that. I have gone across some statuses and seen, I'm in class, I am so bored. Next hour I'm saying, oh, this teacher is, oh, I don't like math. So obviously if I'm writing that during a class, I am in the class, but I'm also on social media. So would that be a sign of addiction?
It could be, and we're not saying that these are definitive signs. Like if your child has one of these signs, all of a sudden they're social media addicts. Because in some cases, is that child simply expressing themselves. But then when you see it tied, where it's overly used, or where you see it tied to other signs, and then you see other symptoms relating to it. Because a symptom, we're going to discuss those. But the whole idea now of, if a child is saying that this class is so boring or whatever, it may be a situation where the class is boring. However, if the child cannot concentrate in class or in any class, they always feel bored in every class, and there's a lack of concentration past a certain amount of time, is usually an indicator that this child may have a digital addiction, because their brain right now lacks the ability to concentrate without certain stimuli in terms of social media and in terms of interacting with the devices. All right, so if we continue along the talk of the selfie filters, we are talking about how we perceive ourselves. We are talking about constantly using the filters. Then there's a situation where the person may put out a post and they may delete the post because it has insufficient likes. All right, that's one thing that people may do. I put out a post and I realize that I only got 10 likes from this post. It means no one is liking me, no one is liking this post. So if no one likes it, what's the sense of having it up there? Let me take it down. And then therefore you ask the question, is it, if you're posting something just simply to express yourself, the weight of what people think about it has a major factor in how you view yourself as well. So we have those things. So if those are signs, if you have those signs as well, some people may say that it is a sign of narcissistic behavior. So those are things you can look at. There are other signs. I thought you were saying something. There are other signs that we do have as well. We have children who, for instance, the first and the last thing they do is check their phone every day. And you mentioned it just now in terms of during class, the phone may buzz, the phone may ring or whatever, and they must take up the phone during class to check notifications, to message someone. And I think that is something that is really disruptive in terms of class. And the whole thing is that as a teacher, you may not see this because most of the time the mics are off, the cameras are off, and you're teaching a session and they're distracted with something that's happening on their profile or someone messaging them, and therefore you're not fully concentrating in what is happening. Whereas in a classroom environment, usually those distractions are not there, so it is easier for the child to concentrate, and there's no tendency now to go to get that quick buzz from checking my phone. And I think that is something that will be interesting when we go back into on an online class environment. Whereas there are children who, well, if they're in an online classroom and they needed that, for lack of a better word, quick fix in terms of getting that buzz, they could take out their phone and message someone or check a post or check the social media status. In a classroom, they don't have that. So then what is going to happen? The child now has to learn this discipline of controlling the tendency for my brain to want to get that dopamine hit that we talked about by connecting with my phone, but I can't because I'm in a classroom with a teacher and that is not what is expected of me. So we have those things. So you need this immediate need to check notifications is also a sign. The whole idea of we mentioned this before, the phantom buzz syndrome. You think that you have your phone in your pocket and you feel it vibrating and you're checking your phone and realize, oh shoot, I don't have my phone in my pocket. My phone is in my bag because I'm in a classroom. Now, all these things that you'll be looking at, and all these things are things that are signs that the child or the student may have a digital addiction. In the home environment, if we have to go to that, we have situations where children may not be having enough sleep, and it is not a situation where they are in their bed at a particular time, but they're in their bedrooms and they're messaging, or they're getting these notifications all during the night. And most of the children that we connect with, they said that they may have a challenge with this sometimes, where if they go to sleep with their phone in the bedroom, the notifications and sometimes from the time the phone screen lights up, all of a sudden they pick it up, even if their eyes are closed, and they want to take up the phone and check and see, and then therefore they don't have proper sleep at nights, and therefore that could impact their ability to concentrate during school time. So now
Stay awake.
to stay awake even so during school time, also because they don't have that stimuli from the phone to keep them awake as well. And so you have lack of focus and concentration, easily being distracted from your phone, and then poor sense of time and priorities. And some of our children, they have the responsibility of doing homework, doing assignments and so on, but because they spend so much time engaging in the social media, they lose sense of time there, then they're not as productive when coming to homework. The gaming is there, the social media is there, all these things that the brain likes or the brain is accustomed to is there. So then the discipline to do assignments, to do homework, to do those things, and to prioritize those things, we lack that discipline.
Speaking of discipline, and time is running out on us way too quickly. But parents know, because we're hearing students, and teachers, but I'm thinking parents has a great responsibility in all this. So what then is the responsibility of parents in this to help my child to create that discipline, not to be on their phone or the device so much? And what can parents do? What is parents' role in all of this?
The parent's role is very important, because as parents, you usually sometimes may have the first signs and symptoms. You come into contact with those signs and symptoms, and sometimes we may just cast it off as, hey, this person just like the device too much, and we say it's that. But when we look at certain symptoms, we see how is it shaping their mental health, how is it impacting their mental health and their behavior. And if we want to help them to develop in a particular way where they are, and to develop in terms of the brain, to develop in terms of the social skills, to develop in terms of education and so on, we have to pay attention to those symptoms. And some of these symptoms that you may have is the whole feeling of euphoria when coming to using a computer. So it's like when they're away from their devices or away from the phone, they are usually depressed, or they're usually like bored, or they usually they don't know what to do. It's like if they're fidgeting to what to do. I need my phone, I need this. This is usually an indicator that your child is developing probably some mental health challenges as it relates to connecting with their phones and connecting to and balancing it with other aspects of their life. We mentioned the whole ability of prioritizing time. We also have physical symptoms as well. So because of our constant need to be bending over looking at our phones, we may have children that develop some neck pains, some back pains, carpal tunnel issues as well with all the texting and so on. And these are things that our students are telling us. And as we conduct these classes, these are things that students indicate, yes, I recognize this, I recognize that, in terms of the physical aspect of things, and even in terms of the posture being in class. And they being in class in an online environment may not be the best posture for them for learning, and they're accustomed to that. So when they come into a classroom and they have now to sit at a desk, how is it going to affect their ability to be comfortable enough to concentrate on what is happening? We talked about the whole addiction that is even driving poor nutrition. Some children, because of this constant need to be on the devices and the entertainment and all this, they lose sense of priority in terms of eating, taking a shower, all these different things, brushing their teeth, taking a shower. Bathing, all these things, they lose sense of that. And these are things that students are telling us. Yes, sir, a whole day might go past. It's just one day, and you don't even realize it. And sometimes they don't even realize that they're doing these things. And these are all these are signs. And then the emotional symptoms that we could look at. We are talking about depression. We are talking about low self-esteem, the whole idea of loneliness and social isolation, anxiety and fear. All these are there. We talk about the mood swings using the devices when we have mood modification. So for instance, as you say, if you're feeling like lonely, or you're feeling bored, or you're feeling sad, your device helps you to feel happy or whatever. So all these are signs and symptoms that parents and teachers can look out for that can be an indicator that your child may be dealing with a digital addiction or an addiction to their screens.
In these next few minutes, I want you to answer two questions. Firstly, how do parents and or educators deal with helping children to overcome these addictions of social media? So we deal with that first, and then I'll go on to the final question for the session.
All right, so the first thing that we must, as parents and teachers, need to do is to help the child to recognize that they have a problem. All right, and as we mentioned, sometimes social media addiction is intentional, based on the fact that these apps and these things are designed to grab our attention and to encourage us to behave in a particular way. So help them to recognize that they have a problem and not to blame themselves for it. Their brains are still developing. All these things are still happening. So it is not per se their fault, right? Yes, they may make certain choices, but there's a greater play out here. And we help them to reassess their priorities. What is more important? You getting likes on social media, or you getting through your schoolwork, you achieving these certain things, getting through with getting your education. Another thing that you can do is help them to delay gratification. So the whole idea of having to pick up the phone every time you get a notification, or going to sleep with your phone next to you so you don't miss anything. All right, all those things are you need to tell them, okay, there's a place and time for this. So after a certain time, you're not gonna use your phone. We're gonna put your phone outside in the main room to charge. You're not taking it into your bedroom, so that they can have that rest and they have that sleep without the distraction there. Help them to reevaluate some of the apps that they use, and get involved with other activities, like other hobbies that they can get involved with. Go outside, go on walks together as a family. That will really help them in navigating that and replacing some of the things that they get from using the social media, the emotion, the way that they feel, and the connection that they want. You deliver that through that family setting. Then you can also definitely use certain tools. There are certain software that you could install on the devices that can put limits on the time that they spend on a certain app. So if you say, okay, in terms of our balance, you're only going to use social media for at least 1 hour a day, or you may have certain usage criteria for when they're interacting with it. These are all things, and in some cases you may need to get professional help, especially when you see certain things like mood modifications and depression, or because an anxiety tied to it, because we don't want a situation like where we see in Trinidad. I think this is a situation in Trinidad a couple years ago where the child was losing concentration in class and so on, not prioritizing the work, and the grades started to drop. And the parent basically said, because the grades was dropping, I'm going to take away your phone. I see you're doing so much, spending so much time in your phone. And that thought, that idea of taking away the phone and the child being separated from the phone, responding in the child actually assaulting the person and retaliating in that way, because it's like the phone was a second nature to them. So we don't want you to let it get to that stage where we see those type of things happening, and where you may need to have basically professional help. So you may need to talk to someone, whether it's a guidance counselor or a psychologist, or someone who could give you the additional help that you need, and develop an idea of like no phone zones, or times or periods where we're not interacting with our phones. And if the family is involved with it, that is something that's greater, because everyone is subscribing to the same thing. So these are just some of the things that you can do to help your child overcome any type of social media or digital addictions.
Wow. It seems that we have a great job for parents and educators to do. And I say educators as well, because I know several teachers who miss connecting with their students. I have heard them say, oh, I miss my students. I miss connecting with, I miss being there for my students. And we know that's the nature of our system here, that we have lots of teachers who sometimes take the place of the parents at home. And we know for primary school especially that, my teacher said so and so. So teacher has much more weight sometimes than mommy or daddy. So I know that they would like to help if they can, and they of course themselves are parents, and they need to look for these signs as well in their kids. So this is very helpful. So the big question now, we've come to the end of our session. We've talked about so much on digital devices, on social media, how it impacts mental health, how the addictions we looked at all the topics I don't even recall, social skills, communication. And the conclusion of the matter is social media toxic or transformational? What says you?
I would say this. I think we, as you said, we spend a lot of time highlighting how social media is impacting us. We looked at a lot of the way how it's impacting our mental health and the behavior. at the end of the day, I think social media is an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool that helps us to stay connected with each other. Imagine not having social media and some of the technology that we have today with the environment that we are in. So social media is an amazing tool to connect, to stay with that, keep in connection with persons, an amazing tool for expression and so on. And I think it's a necessary tool in some cases when the child has reached a particular age. Once they have that discussion where you take some time to explain to them what is the standards, how we should use it, what is expected, just like how you wouldn't put your child in a car and give them the keys and tell them go and drive the car, and they haven't had any training. You didn't talk to them about the safety stuff was accepted, how you need to drive on the road, the speed, all these things. We have to do that when coming to social media. If social media and our digital devices are going to be a plus in our lives. If we do not do that, we allow a lot of these factors that basically can manipulate, allow for manipulation, allow for certain impacts in terms of the influences on their brains development, influences in terms of their behavior to run rampant unchecked. And we need to recognize that our children, they need that support. So if I start off by saying that social media is simply a tool, therefore, how is it toxic or transformational is based on how you use that tool, or how you allow that tool to use you, if you want to look at it. So it can be transformational, or it is actually transformational in my opinion, because how it has shaped and changed the way we communicate, the way we connect with each other, and it brings a whole new dimension to that. So it is transformational from that aspect. But whether it's toxic or not is based on if that transformation is more now negatively impacting you or positively impacting you. And the person who determines that is the user. The user determines what is it that I am going to get involved with? How am I going to conduct myself online? What are the things that I am going to consume? What are the type of content that I'm consuming? Who am I going to follow? Who am I going to allow to influence me? All of that is based on what the messages, the practices, and the behavior that we see emulating in it, and if we are adopting those things, if that is shaping our values, if that is shaping our perception of ourselves, shaping our perception of beauty, shaping the perception of how we look at others, or we stereotyping women because we are looking at social media from the way of getting that sort of sexualization satisfaction. And therefore, when we go now to interact with women socially, our viewpoint is based on that. So if we look at it from that way, we are the persons responsible for determining if social media is toxic. And when we look at the aspect of parents play a major role in determining that as well. We can't put the responsibility on just our children, because at the end of the day, as we started off by saying, once you know who they are, what characterizes them, and the fact that their brains are still developing, if you do not get involved, you can determine if it is toxic or not. Right? If you don't get involved, you can't determine if it's toxic or not. And you must be intentional in terms of parenting to make sure that social media is a plus that gives them positive transformation, that they feel confident in using it, they're positive in using it, they feel safe in using it, and is not toxic where is a threat to their mental health, is a threat to their behavior, is a threat to their safety.
I want to thank you very much, Mr. Gosling, for being with us these past, 4 weeks, 4 sessions?
Sessions.
You know, for sharing so much with us on social media and digital devices. Before I go, 30 seconds, tell us a little bit about your organization in terms of how we can reach out to you should we need any more information on this, how if we want you in our schools, if we want you to visit our youth group or whatever, our Parent Teachers Association, and how we can possibly support this organization.
Yes, Echo Nation is a registered charity here in Barbados. And as we started off by saying, we look at how social media, the internet, and music impact the mental health and behavior of our young people. We want them to use it safely, confidently, and positively. So we do that by educating them. So as you said, we are in school, so we have several school curriculums that deal with this and help children to evaluate how social media is impacting them and giving them tools and equipping them and empowering them to make better decisions as they engage on the internet, as they engage with social media, and even in terms of the music that they listen to. All right, so we have school programs. We also work with PTAs as well. So if you're a parent-teacher organization, we can connect with you. We work with teachers. In other words, some schools may invite us to talk to teachers in terms of helping them to understand how to better interact and communicate with children. With our tools that we use, we recommend, for instance, that we especially with when children are interacting with digital media, that we use digital media to connect with them in the learning environment, using pictures, using illustrations, using video to help with the process of learning, and that will be great. We also work with in churches and in youth groups. And if you want to get us to come and connect with you, even with certain organizations like clubs, credit unions, all these, we play a part in connecting with them wherever parents are involved or wherever children are involved, summer programs, camps, all these different things. All you simply have to do is reach out to us. You can visit our website at www.ekconation.com. If you visit us there, and we have a form where you can request us to come and do a session. You let us know what type of session you want, who you're connecting with, and we could schedule that for you. You could also follow us on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. We have several YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel where we have a lot of these discussions there. You can follow us there, or you could go on our link tree, which has all the connections to everything that we are online. That is linktr.ee/EcoNation, EKCO Nation, and then you will see all the things that we are doing online, all all our social media handles, everything else is there. So, and if you want to support us, because all of these programs do cost, or when we go into schools, where we go to these PTAs, there's a cost attached to that, and we want to continue to deliver this information in a way that builds a better future for Barbados. So if you want to support us, please connect with us. Send us an email at econation@gmail.com, and we have a Scotiabank account. Our account number is 456-124, and you could basically send us your money there or connect with us. Reach out to us first via email so that we will know who you are. And as a charity, obviously, there are some benefits that we can offer as a charity for your support or your partnership with us.
Thank you, Mr. Costin.
Thank you.
Thank you again. It was a pleasure sharing with you, and goodbye.